Hey guys, something a bit different today. I've got some very old photographs that I've scanned which show very well just how potentially dangerous small projectiles can be. This picture is just a selection of stuff, mostly what I used for the tests long ago, and just to give some idea, and I'll describe each one when we get to the relevant pictures. Well, here's the first example. We're starting at the bottom end. The scratch marks on the clay, which has been cut in half to see what's inside, those are inch marks. So you can see here just over 4 inches is a Spitzer pellet, which was a home cast lead conical conoidal pellet, very unstable. You can see it's finished up not in line with the cavity. This is fired from a Webley Senior pistol, so very low power rating, but nevertheless you can see the penetration still quite significant. Oh, and just to mention, fired from 6 feet distance, pretty close. Webley Senior pistol again, 6 foot distance. This is a Lane's heavyweight pellet. It's about 3 or 4 grains heavier than a standard. Very effective pellet, stable, accurate, and very good on small game. And because of the profile, you can see a bit more expansion on entry. Not a pellet to be trifled with, actually, even though it's just a 177. Now 6 foot distance again, but now we're on to rifle, air rifle. This is an old Webley Mark II, pretty old, lost a bit of its punch, 22 caliber, and this was shooting the cast Spitzer pellet. In fact, on sectioning here you can't see the pellet, but slightly straighter trajectory, but a bit wavy as well. Not an ideal projectile at all. 6 foot distance, Webley Mark II rifle, super point pellet. Still only 4.5 inches penetration, but you can see the amount of initial cavitation, and the pellet shows very well at the end of its travel. Not something to tangle with. Pellet guns aren't toys. Now we've got a silver Jet Pellet. It's actually virtually the same as one in the first picture, the Hustler. Quite a complex design of pellet. Very effective, good stable trajectory, and here you can see there's quite significant expansion, penetration there, just a fraction over 5 inch. Quite a dangerous pellet. Switching now to an HW35. It's a pronounced Wehrach or Wehrach German air rifle. Break barrel, very good quality. The previous Webley Mark II, incidentally, was a tap loading underlever. So this is break barrel, 6 feet again, and here we're using that Spitzer, the cast conical conoidal. Penetration goes up to just over 5 inch, but this shows just how bad the stability is on that pellet, and heavier than others, but very unstable and basically pretty darn useless. But still a bit of expansion after entry. I forgot to mention the HW35 is in 177. This is with the Lane's heavyweight, which we've seen before. Very good pellet, and we've got just about 5 inches penetration. Quite a bit of cavitation, and pretty stable. HW35 rifle again, 6 feet, 177 caliber. This is what I call a standard pellet. It's pretty much what you'd get as a non-special, just round nose, usual necking and skirt. Quite effective. That's going up to again about the 5 inch mark. Quite adequate, but not perhaps quite as good as some of the specialist pellets. Significant expansion on entry again. This is the, I think it was Webley Hawk Spitzer pellet. This time a bit straighter trajectory and a bit of expansion. 5.5 inches, almost coming out the other end actually. I say that's a heavier pellet, which I've mentioned before, but basically pretty useless from an accuracy consistency point of view, but it still does some damage. Here's the Hawk again at 6 feet. This is the Silver Jet. Pretty straight trajectory, quite a lot of expansion on entry. 5 inches penetration. It is possible actually, those first two, the pistol, I might have even fired those closer. Anyway, this was 6 foot and quite a presentable effect, not to be underrated. One more time with the Hawk, this time with the Super Point pellet, which seems to have deviated off track slightly. The clay, of course, was not totally uniform, having been reformed each time for each test, but still very significant expansion on entry. 4.5 inches, so looks like a lot of the energy was soaked up on the initial entry. Okay, change of tune here. We're going on to 22 long rifle, just with a regular plinking rifle from 30 feet. These are all 30-foot shots. This first one is using Ely club, which was basically just a target round nose, and yet despite that there's quite a lot of cavitation after entry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, it's probably about 8 inches plus. The bullet isn't there, but a very significant effect just from what people regard as the humble 22. Okay, 30-foot Ely club again, but because it exited the first test, we made the clay into a longer sausage. Still not quite long enough. Here we've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, nearly 9 inch, and the bullet's still gone through. And again, you can see cavitation quite markedly, and we'll follow this with an even longer sausage of clay. Well, now we've stretched this out to just over 13 inches. Cavitation looks a bit exaggerated because the top wall there is very thin. I hadn't got enough clay to make a longer sausage. The bullet's exited. Well worth remembering just what the standard round nose can do. Now we switch to a higher velocity. This is a Remington high velocity hollow point. Penetration there is only 5 inch, but the cavitation's pretty huge, and the chunk of clay's got very thick walls, so the expansion was probably contained somewhat. That's pretty devastating. In fact, any hollow point's going to do a lot of damage, and even a subsonic. This was again 30 feet, plinking rifle, and I forget velocity, more than 1200, which is the standard sort of velocity. This is probably up at about 1500 feet per second, something like that. I really forget. Now the Remington Yellow Jacket, which I think they usually class as a hypervelocity round, hollow point of course, and here the penetration is very limited due to the extreme cavitation. As soon as that hollow point hits and expands, the energy is dissipated locally. And what do we got there? 5.5 inches. Can't see the bullet, it's buried in there somewhere, but that's one heck of a cavity. Now a CCI Stinger, also I think classed as hypervelocity, very similar to the Yellow Jacket. Hollow point, huge expansion, 4.5-ish inches. Can't see the bullet, might have fragmented. The white card, incidentally, on a lot of these you can't read. I was shooting the pics in rather bright light, and the labels didn't show very well, which is why I'm giving a verbal description. Well, here's the last one in this selection of clay tests. This was Winchester hush power, which is subsonic, which means it's got to be below 1100 feet per second. I used to use it actually with a silencer suppressor, but this is surprising. Here we've got 6.5 inches. At the very left you can see the remains of the bullet, which has expanded hugely, and this round proved devastating on rabbits when I was hunting. One hit and very clean and humane kill, not to be trifled with at all. Even at 50 yards this is still a very effective round. So there we are, that's all the tests, and we'll just sum up. So there we are, very old tests. 30 years ago I did the pictures, I think, and found the prints, decided to scan them, and although clay is not ballistic gelatin, it gives a pretty fair idea of what these small projectiles can do, even from air weapons. They're often underrated. Sometimes people point them around as if they're just low-powered BBs, and even those can put somebody's eye out. But I think you'll agree that some of the cavitation that show on some of these is not only impressive, but brings home the point that you treat firearms with total safety. The main one probably being, as always, never point at anything you do not wish to destroy. I think that's the catch-all. So there you are, hopefully just something of slight interest. YouTube's full of stuff on ballistics and bullets and special shotgun shells and goodness knows what, but this is perhaps a little bit different, and hope you may have enjoyed seeing it. Thanks for watching.